Time then to get into the team selector then. Theo, do you want to kick us off? I'll actually let you even pick the goalkeeper in your back four.
Oh, is that a Christmas treat, is it?
Exactly. It's going to be a big decision to make.
Alisson in goal. It's not really a difficult one, despite Kelleher's heroics against them last week. Trent's at right back. Tsimikas is at left back. And then you're just hoping that nothing happens to him, because Nico Williams or James Milner at left back against Chelsea is not really worth thinking about. But yeah, Tsimikas at left back. Oh, I would like to think Van Dijk's fit enough to start. He's had a few days training. They've not had any symptoms. Only Liverpool's medical staff can say if they're really all the lads are ready to start. But surely he's as one who's going to have as good a chance as any. But then whatever state's had on his body with the injury coming back from that. And then it's up in the air with who starts alongside him. Joe Gomez didn't have his best night last week, so it won't be him. But Konate did so well coming on. And then Joel Matip, he's had a good season so far. It's pretty much a statement on who is your first choice centre-back pairing. And the fact that they don't play Chelsea until Sunday, it's not as though Klopp would be tempted to rest Matip for this one, to have him for that one, because he's still got the extra couple of days to recover, get back on the training field. I think Matip is still clinging on to that first team spot, that first choice partnership slot by the skin of his teeth. Konate is knocking at the door and he's not doing his any chances harm when he comes in and he plays as well as he has done in the last few weeks. But as it stands, it's just Matip's. But then if Van Dijk's not up to it, you'd have no problems with it being Konate and Matip together.
Yeah, see, I was thinking maybe Konate would come in for this one, given the pace of Jamie Vardy. But what do you think, Hannah?
I mean, I think in any situation, if Van Dijk's available, you play Van Dijk. But I can sort of see the reasoning there of, it's been Matip and Konate, bar the Leicester game, for the last few Premier League games, whilst Van Dijk has been out with COVID. So, whether in terms of consistency you stick with that, I'm not too sure. But, given when you look at the sort of players at Leicester, even with the injuries that they do have up front, when you think about the likes of Vardy, I'd be reluctant not to put Van Dijk in there. So, again, I think it's just a case of who partners him. Personally, I would want to go Konate. I'm really impressed with what I've seen of him. And, when he came on against Leicester the other week, it sort of helped us massively in terms of getting the draw and then ultimately winning with the penalties. So I would probably go Van Dijk and Konate. That's no discredit to Matip, but, I just want to see more of Konate. And then obviously Alexander-Arnold and Tsimikas are a shoe-in, and as is Alisson.
Yeah, definitely right. So Theo's been outvoted on that one. Konate can get the nod to start at centre half. Hannah, I'll come to you then for the midfield. What are you thinking? Obviously, Fabinho and Thiago both set to be back. Do they come straight back into the 11?
Fabinho definitely. Thiago, given he only came back, yesterday, I think. So maybe that's one where you sort of give him a little bit more time. I think I'd probably be named on the substitute bench, but I think it's a different case of whether or not you start him. Fabinho definitely, and Henderson as well is a must. It's just a case of, for me, whether or not you put Milner, Keita, or Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain in there. Personally, I want to see more of Naby Keita. I'm not sure if Naby will be one that plays against Chelsea, given that Thiago will have, been back a bit longer by the time we played Chelsea. But I think given how Naby changed the game against Leicester the other night, I want to see more of that. And, it's an opportunity for him really to get some form and continue that. So personally, I'll put Naby in there, but then Fabinho and Henderson as well.
What do you reckon, Theo? Obviously, it feels as though it's probably time for Tyler Morton to drop out of the 11, and probably quite timely given the subsequent injury that's been picked up by Ricardo following his challenge in the League Cup meeting between the two clubs. Because if he does play, I'm sure away from home, it would be quite a hostile environment for him, albeit, of course, no malice in the challenge, but it hasn't ended well for Ricardo.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a spicy atmosphere anyway. We were saying it in the press box last week when you had challenges flying in, players getting injured, and just the whole manner of the game. We know about the nasty challenge that Leicester fans were coming out with. It certainly feels a lot more spice to it. And then you've got the added context of Rodgers against his former club. So even if Morton hadn't broken Ricardo's leg, I'd still imagine it to be quite heated. With Hannah on that, Naby Keita has to start. I think he was dancing around him for fun. They all have been having nightmares about how well he came on and changed the game. So he's got to start this one. And you've also got the fact that, well, this time next week, you won't be able to play him. He'll be on Africa Cup of the Duties next week. So if he got an injury in this one or against Chelsea, it doesn't matter for the next 2-3 weeks. You can let him get a little knock out the way now. You just play him if he's on form, go away with some confidence. I'd agree with like the argument with Van Dijk. Fabinho, you'd imagine, is going to be good enough to start. But then it's how energetic are him and Henderson feeling. Like Henderson didn't have COVID, but we know he was ill as well. So if they're not both 100%, you could see one of them drop to the bench, the other one is the number 6. And then it would probably be Milner, because it would be a big, bold call for it to be Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita as offensive midfielders, which is incredibly hard on Oxlade-Chamberlain because he has done so well when he's been turned to in recent weeks. But I'm going to be optimistic and say Henderson's fit enough to start. He got through an hour last week, and Fabinho is going to be back and raring to go. So Fabinho, Henderson, Naby Keita, in a very long-winded way of agreeing with Hannah, as I often do.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you did take your time over that. What about the front three then?
Salah, Jota, Mane, easy. In form, next.
Yeah, any argument with that, Hannah?
Not at all. I mean, Firmino, you might have a case for, but I think given Jota's form and, clearly he likes a game against Leicester, you look at his celebrations after he scored the winning penalty. So absolutely Jota has to go in there. I don't know if it's a case of maybe managing his minutes slightly, given he's going to be so crucial, especially when Salah and Mane go away for AFCON. But I think given that the Leeds game didn't happen and you've had now that bit of an extended break in between the League Cup game and now Leicester again, given we've had that break, I think I'll play Jota, and then obviously Salah and Mane, we're going to lose them next week anyway, so like Theo said with Naby, you've got them now, so you might as well play them.
They had that break last week as well, didn't they? But with the Jota celebration, is it just Wolves and Leicester don't like each other? That the only reason he probably went for it, or was he actually listening to the chants and understood, and he's probably bought into Liverpool and all of that? Surely it's got to be to do with his Wolves past. There must have been something that's gone on in the game there, and that's why he loved it that little bit more.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'd probably hazard a guess as to something must have gone on previously. But anyway, match prediction time. I will come to you first, Hannah, on this. What's the score going to be?
I think if it had ended, had Man City not conceded 3 to them, I think I would have gone with a bit, I could see Liverpool winning quite comfortably if Man City did. But seeing that they very almost got that comeback, I think it's going to be bit more of a challenge, and I think I'm not quite sure how many players they've got out injured, but he might be able to field a slightly stronger side against Liverpool. So I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as you might expect at the moment. So I'm going to go with maybe like 4-2.
4-2. Plenty of goals. Theo, what about yourself?
Make up for there not being a Leeds game.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to call because Leicester, they went so strong against Liverpool last week and it's cost them because they got a couple of injuries. And then they seem to be so weak against Man City, then they put in a good performance in the end. They scored 3 at Anfield, they scored 3 at the Etihad. Despite all the injuries, they've got a bit something about them. But I just don't get the management of Vardy at the moment. I know he's getting on a bit, but since they started managing his minutes more, it's when their form started to go out the window. But because they've got those 3 goals in the last 2, they're going to score, aren't they? They're at home. The fans will want to get one over Liverpool up because of last week and everything. I'll go with a 3-2.
3-2. Okay, yeah, plenty of goals in it. We'll have to wait and see how it does play out. Do remember you can follow all of the coverage across on the Liverpool Echo website. Here on Blood Red, we will bring you immediate reaction with the debrief, as well as, of course, our post-game podcast and both Jurgen Klopp and Brendan Rodgers post-match press conferences. But from myself, Guy Clark, Theo Squires and Hannah Pinnock, thanks for your time and your company here on Blood Red. It's bye for now.